Why do I get bloated when I fast? So again, good fasting hygiene is making sure that you are hydrated going into a fast, which we just talked about. So when we're looking at just good principles of fasting, make sure you follow that. Okay, second thing, when you fast, I really want you to hear this. When you fast, you are changing your microbiome. You are changing the terrain in your gut. Now, in Fast Like a Girl, I talked specifically about the 24-hour fast and the research that was done out of MIT showing that when you fast 24 hours, it reboots your whole gut bacteria. It's a beautiful thing. But it doesn't only happen at 24 hours. You have to remember that as you go in to this fasted state, deeper and deeper into this fasted state, your microbiome is going to repair itself more and more because it has to get itself ready for food. This is how brilliant you were designed. Think about this for a moment. Your intelligent body goes into this fasted state and it's like, hey, no food's coming in. We better get so efficient at pulling nutrients out of food so that when food comes, we can remineralize, we can get the right nutrients back into the system so this body can work at its best. So there is a massive gut change. In that gut change, it is very common for the intelligence inside the gut to get rid of the bad bacteria. And it does this by getting rid of the bad bacteria, spreading out the good bacteria, upregulating intestinal stem cells so it can start to create a better intermucosal lining so it is ready for food and ready to absorb nutrients from your food. But the bloating is the die-off of the bad in your gut. So it's actually, as difficult as it is, it's actually a really positive sign that gut changes are happening. Now, let me give you 2 ways to handle the bloat. First, really common thing I used to do with my patients all the time, which is give people enzymes. So you can do, like, I'll leave some of my favorite in here. One of my favorite is put out by Biooptimizers, and it's called Masszyme. It is just a good all-around enzyme that when you're in a fasted state and bloating, you take an enzyme and it helps break down the debris that's being shed from your mucosal lining. The second thing you can do is you can take activated charcoal. Again, I'll put my favorite in here. And activated charcoal will bind to any of the toxins in the gut that are being shed, causing the bloating, and get it out of your system. So you can absolutely lean in to more things that will help with help the body do what it's trying to do, which is get rid of the bad. The second thing, if you have bloating when you fast, I really want to bring to your attention how powerful it is to make sure when you take that first meal, that very first meal, in Eat Like a Girl, I have a whole chapter on why the first meal matters when you go back out of your fasting window into your eating window. And the first meal matters because of the microbiome changes. So make sure that that first meal has 4 major components to it. The first is you want it to have glycine. So glycine is found in bone broth. So if I was fasting and I was bloated, I would do the enzymes and the activated charcoal in my fasting window, help support that. And then the very first thing I would have would be a cup of bone broth. Bone broth has glycine in it, and glycine repairs the inner lining, mucosal lining of the gut, and it stops leaky gut syndrome. So let's start with glycine, making sure that we're adding something healing in. If you are not a omnivore, in Eat Like a Girl, I asked my plant-based chef specifically to make a functional mushroom broth. For those of you that are plant-based, I would recommend you break your fast with this functional bone broth. So those are all in Eat Like a Girl, depending on when you're watching this. It is out on October 22nd. It is ready for pre-order. I am so proud of this book. It's going to make everything in your fasting lifestyle so much easier. But when we get bloated, we got to think about how that first meal can support a healthy gut. So the first thing is glycine-rich foods. Okay, second thing is polyphenol foods. So polyphenol foods, some of the best ones are olives, olive oil. Nuts and seeds are rich in polyphenol foods. Chia seeds, hemp seeds, cloves are really rich in polyphenol. Chocolate, berries, again, in both Fast Like a Girl and Eat Like a Girl, I have a whole list for you of the polyphenol-rich foods. I will share with you a classic meal I put together and have used to not only repair my gut, but repair the guts of many of my patients. I'll share with that in a moment. But let me go through the other 3 principles of that first meal that will help with things like bloating. So we've got glycine, we've got polyphenol foods, we've got probiotic foods. Probiotic foods are your fermented foods. So think about it. You go into a fasted state, you're getting rid of the bad. Now we add in the good. So the good is things like sauerkraut, kimchi, tempeh. We have a ton of tempeh. It's a fermented soybean recipes in Eat Like a Girl. You can do a kombucha. It's a little bit light. You can do kefir, coconut kefir, water kefir. And you can do, just kefir yogurt as long as it's not pasteurized, because those all have good probiotic foods in them. Again, tons of lists in Eat Like a Girl. And then the third one is your prebiotic foods. And prebiotic foods are like nuts and seeds. Hemp seeds are a big one that I sprinkle on everything. So when we look at bloating, it's an indication that there's a change in the microbiome. When we go back into food, we want to facilitate that healing by doing the bone broth or functional mushroom broth, and then putting the 3 polyphenol, probiotic, and prebiotic foods together. A typical meal that I've done is a avocado, and then I'll put sauerkraut on top. Then I will sprinkle hemp seeds and chia seeds, and then I'll drizzle it with a high quality olive oil. That is like a classic breakfast meal that I have. So hopefully whoever asked about getting why she gets bloated with fasting, I hope I just gave you the good explanation and then also some tools you can use.